Let's go to Mark O'Mara now.
To Sheriff Esslinger, and I just think it needs to be spoken. It's not, it was meant as a letter to him personally, but he was okay with me reading it to you. So Don and I just want to take a minute just to acknowledge not only the court system and, of course, what Judge Nelson did in making sure that this trial got moved forward and got to a good conclusion, but I don't think that anybody here realizes what effort was put into by the Sheriff's Office and Sanford Police Department to make sure that everything that we had to do in this case was done properly and was done in a way that ensured the safety of the community. So if you would indulge me for just a minute, you'll notice in my arguments, if not in my letters as well, I can get a bit verbose. So, dear Sheriff Esslinger, I want to take a moment to express my and my team's sincere thanks and appreciation for the way that your organization has handled the George Zimmerman matter. I also want to get this letter to you before the verdict. This was July 8th, last week, because I did not want its message to be impacted one way or the other by the eventual outcome. I know that your involvement even preceded my involvement back on April 2012, and that you used the entirety of your department's resources to properly address the reality of where this case was and the potentials of where it might go on any given day. While I understand that I am unaware of most of the work that your department has done, I am very aware of at least some of the results. I also understand, by virtue of the confidential nature of a lot of the efforts, you will never receive true recognition for the unseen work that ensured each positive result. I have what I perceive to be a unique perspective on the countywide impact of this case and your responses to it. The integrity and the dedication that you and the entire Sheriff's Office has brought to this difficult and complex situation has, in large part, helped direct it towards a more rational and peaceful unfolding. I'm not sure what the next couple of weeks may bring, but I am confident that you will continue to protect your county, its citizens, and its institutions, particularly the now often assailed judicial system. I also want to express my heartfelt gratitude for the way that you handled me and my team throughout the difficult times. The men and women of your department have treated all members of the process, from my team to the Martin family, to the prosecution, to the public, in a completely professional and respectful way. And we have done it in such an organized and seamless manner that their presence went almost completely unnoticed. What I have noticed is your department's calm certainty that they know what to do, how to do it, and how to protect all of those involved, including the process, while accomplishing their tasks. Personally, this made my job much easier because I can focus my team's efforts on the proper presentation of our case without concerns for outside influences or logistical concerns. We come to the courthouse every day knowing that you have that covered. I do not know what awards or commendations are available to acknowledge the pure perfection with which you and your department have handled the entire event, but I am certain that you have the vote of every member of my team, the prosecution team, the judicial staff, the media, and every citizen who has interacted with your department in this case. Thanks again. Anyway, I just thought that was appropriate because both Sheriff Esslinger and Sanford PD has done an amazing job in making this process as peaceful and successful. Having said that, we appreciate the jury's time and effort. We really do. They spent an enormous amount of time during the trial listening. They were very intent. I mentioned at one point that some jurors, you have to wake them up by shouting or dropping a file. Not this juror. They listened. They took notes. They were as engaged as everybody else in the process, and it made for the type of verdict that we had to have, which was a verdict that listened to all available facts, not all of the facts, but all the available facts, the evidence, the law, and the timed consideration that the jury gave to it before making that final decision. Obviously, we are ecstatic with the results. George Zimmerman was never guilty of anything except protecting himself in self-defense. I'm glad that the jury saw it that way, and I hope that everyone who thinks, particularly those who doubted George's reasons and doubted his background, now understand that the jury knew everything that they knew was enough for them to find him not guilty. You know even more than the jury know about both parties' past, and we know that George was the type of individual, from what you know, and his involvement in his community. This was not a unique event for George to try and be involved with his community and to be involved with the police when it was necessary. I'm just glad that the jury saw it that way. Very, very happy with the results.
Sometimes I can be a little more blunt.
I think the prosecution of George Zimmerman was disgraceful. I am gratified by the jury's verdict, as happy as I am for George Zimmerman. I'm thrilled that this jury kept this tragedy from becoming a travesty. For that, we are eternally grateful. But it makes me sad, too, that it took this long, under these circumstances, to finally get justice.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Hi there, Amanda Evans, News 13. I have a question for you, Mr. West. This case became a little personal for you. There were some threats made to your family, some jabs about opening statements. We all watched as things kind of got heated between you and Judge Nelson. Can you talk about what this was like for you, this trial, these last few weeks, just personally?
Sure. Stop me if you've heard this one before. No, I'm not going to talk about that. No. This trial is about George Zimmerman, not about pictures of ice cream cones or... Now, I still think the joke was funny. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry I didn't tell it better, but there was an important reason for it. There needed to be a disconnect, frankly, a disconnect from an act that was hard to follow. But I knew, Mr. O'Mara knew, and you all soon found out that it was indeed just an act. I couldn't follow that act with that kind of passion and glaring and staring and all of that. We needed facts. Unlike what Ms. Corey said, they brought the facts. They didn't. Anybody that watched this trial knew the defense put on the case. We proved George Zimmerman was not guilty. So, no, I won't talk about that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Ben Montgomery, Tampa Bay Times. Can you give us any insight into Mr. Zimmerman's state of mind upon hearing the verdict?
I don't know exactly how you can feel when you're in trauma and stress for 16 months. And he's very, very happy with the result, obviously. There's just a release that happens, an emotion release, and endorphin release, and adrenaline release. I think it's probably going to settle on him tonight when he's with his family and can actually realize that he doesn't need to come back to the courthouse tomorrow or ever again unless he wants to under his own free will. So I think he's going to be great. I think he's still worried, and hopefully everyone will respect the jury's verdict as they should, and most have said they would, and we'll take it day by day. But he's doing good.
This is Grace Wong with In Session. I know this is a yes or no question, but I want you to expand on it after I ask the question. Was this a fair fight for you?
You know, let me say it this way. I need to apologize to every public defender in the state, and for this reason, because I said that the way that we were treated in the discovery process and the fights that we had to go through in the discovery process made me think that maybe the prosecution thought they were dealing with a couple of young, overworked public defenders. And that insulted public defenders. Don West was one. I learned my craft from public defenders because when I was a prosecutor, that's who I learned from. So to the extent that there was some insult there, I apologize for it. What I meant to say was that it seemed as though the prosecution is used to getting away with some of what they got away with the enormous demands they put upon us to try and get discovery that in 30 years of experience I've always gotten on the table right up front. So yes, it was a fight that we had to fight. They outfunded us. They made it extraordinarily difficult. If only we had the time back that it took us to fight for the stuff, the information, discovery, the just result that we had to fight for, this case might have been tried 6 months ago, and certainly I wouldn't have had the hundreds and hundreds of hours wasted in a situation where they never should have made us waste time. Was it fair? You know, it was a little bit David and Goliath, but we won.